Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here and joining us tonight for what is a pretty important and very timely conversation. For those that don't know me, my name is John Hall. I serve as President and CEO of the Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce, and I am going to serve as moderator this evening. As you're all well aware, we're about to embark on a transformational streetscape project in our downtown. The next 2 years, it's going to span 5 blocks, 2 blocks on Center Street and 3 blocks heading east on Main Street. Tonight, we have the privilege of hearing from a panel of individuals who have been exactly where we are now. They've lived through full-scale downtown reconstructions, and they're here to share their stories, what worked, what didn't, and what we can learn from their experiences. So I'll introduce all the panelists here, and then we'll dive into some questions, and then we'll have room for questions from the audience as well at any point this evening. So first here is Steve Skaggs, or Council Member Steve Skaggs, who's a City Council member in Nevada and former president of Main Street, Nevada. During the recent streetscape, Steve was actively engaged in both the Main Street and Camelot Theater Foundation. We've got Evie Peterson, who is a small business owner in Nevada with 2 businesses during their streetscape in downtown, both gatherings and Farm Grounds coffee shop. And then Brooke Prouty, who's a former Main Street director in Marion, where she oversaw a 7-year transformation for their uptown district and now serves as business specialist with Main Street, Iowa. So thank you all for being here this evening. So let's start by just kind of setting the stage. What was the scope of your streetscape and infrastructure project, and how long did it take? And we'll start with Steve.
Sure. Thanks everybody for having us here.
I like to just talk loud, but we'll do this. So Nevada went through a streetscape project in 2020. So it started March of 2020, and it took about a year, is what I recall. It seemed like 5 years at some points, but we did get through it fairly quickly. We had the interesting situation of also having a pandemic in the middle of it, which we found out probably didn't matter as much as if we hadn't had a streetscape project, because the business was already affected. So we were able to kind of work through that process a bit down. But anything else?
No, can you talk about the full scope of what your streetscape project?
Oh, thank you, John. Yeah. So it was a full I call it facade to facade streetscape. So our Main Street is 6th Street in Nevada. We went I think a full 6-block chunk of that. And it was from the front of the building on one side to the front of the building on the other side. So sidewalk, reconstruction, road resurfacing, underground utilities, replaced the lighting, and then as the project was finished up, we actually added some decorative elements as well.
Perfect. Evie, do you have anything to add?
And then I can't remember how long they did all the alleys then as well. So they didn't just do the front. We had all of our alleys redone, and that was after the front was all done. So it was really nice the way they did it, where we had the front all closed on a lot of our places, and and they did all the side streets at that same time as well. So the way they worked it in their stages really kind of was helpful. Our back doors and our front doors, we were completely closed off all the time.
So it was about a year and a half.
Yeah. So I think by the time it was all done, it was about a year and a half.
All right, Brooke.
So that's my usual bio, that we transformed the district within 7 years. We didn't have construction for 7 years. But in this context, that probably sounds like it. Our construction project was storefront to storefront, it was 3 blocks long, but then there was all the side streets along with it. We also turned a parking area into a plaza area, closed down a section of that parking for a lot of different community amenities. And then that phase took about 2 years to get the street and the plaza area installed. And now they are working on a big renovation to the Central Square Park, which doesn't really affect many of the businesses, but it was the last phase of the project.
So, and I'll come back to this, but it sounds like less parking when this was done.
We actually had equal amounts of parking and more handicap parking
Okay,
because of the way we were able to reconfigure it.
okay,
Since then, if you do, I have, taken a job at the state, and since I have experience doing a lot of construction work, and it was a really successful project, now they send me all over the state to talk to people about construction and best practices, so that's how we're here today.
excellent. So let's just talk about some surprises that came up, good and bad. Brooke, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, every project is gonna have surprises, whether that be weather or something they find in the ground or a water line that bursts. I know the engineer over here is like cringing, but something's gonna happen. Your timeline's gonna be affected, and it's all about rolling with it. It sounds like you have a really great team here that is able to mitigate some of those issues. Some that we lucked out on a really dry season, so we were ahead of schedule, but there were a couple of different buildings that were really old, and so we had foundations that started to crumble, so some of those took a little bit longer to do, but our contractor was really great to work with.
And you got through it.
And we got through it.
Okay.
I think ours was definitely COVID, hit ours, we started ours in March, as you said, and then basically when we started it, COVID hit. The nice thing about that is they took that into account and sped things up. They were gonna do one street, wait, and then go do the backs. And they went ahead and did 2 full blocks at the same time, just because we could, and because we had this time of COVID where we were already having to adjust and do things. So yeah, that was kind of the unexpected, but we were already preparing to be without our front doors, and so we were preparing to have our delivery windows in the back and to open up our back doors and to adjust that way. So yeah, that was something that could have been really bad, that for some reason, because of COVID, they just said, let's just go ahead and do it. Let's just kind of just barrel ahead and get this done, and we're really thankful that they did, so.
And you guys had a local contractor.
Yes,
kind of
we
leading
had a
that
local
charge. Yeah.
contractor.
Correct.
Yeah, some of their other stuff, I think at that time shut down, and they were like, they could just concentrate on our street and just really give it everything, so it really worked out for us, so.
Steve, any surprises from your perspective?
A little bit like Brooke's example, we did have a couple of instances where as everything was at its most dug up state, we had a huge storm and it tried to flood some basements. The Main Street office basement got flooded. It still looks like a mud hole. So there, there's some surprises and difficulties that you had, but we found that most people are willing to roll with it and kind of banded together and get things cleaned up.
And Abby, you touched on, before you guys kind of hit accelerate on this, there was a lot of preparation work that was being done. Can you talk a little bit about what all your guys' communities did for kind of preparation and kind of what worked, what didn't work in terms of all that prep work?
Yeah, I know we talked about at our Main Street having just kind of rallying everybody together and making sure that the information went out of how to get to all of our individual businesses and kind of coming up with a plan of signage at the ends and strategically placed signs at the entrance and other high traffic areas to kind of direct people of, hey, they're still open, they're down here. I feel like our city did a really good job of leaving our sidewalks open, which was really wonderful. And we had some alley parking as well as some city parking, and those side streets where we were able to park as well. So I feel like we were kind of just planning and anticipating where's everybody gonna park, and coming up with those plans of and starting to communicate this is what you tell your customers, this is how you prepare them, start training them, to come to your back door. And really for my business, I own an event business, so we started training our people that were scheduled to come and have their weddings at our event venue. Okay, this is what's gonna happen, you're gonna have to use the back door, we had to adjust. And so me personally, we were ready. I mean, everything changed with COVID, but we had come up with a plan of where they were gonna park and how we were gonna execute all of our events. So, yeah, I know we did a lot with our Main Street.
Yeah.
in that.
Steve, did you have some other?
Just to
things?
add a little bit, we worked, Main Street Nevada worked closely with the city, and we found that, Main Street, a bunch of volunteers, everybody in town was very effective in helping get the word out rather than the overworked city employees that were frantically trying to get the word out. So that worked really well. And, we were running the Main Street program at the time, so we had a lot of, dealings with Main Street, Iowa, who instantly made a bunch of recommendations that we took advantage of. And I don't know, Brooke, you want to talk about some of that?
Man, Steve, you were moderating and segueing for me. I'm supposed to be the segue guy to say, hey, Brooke, why don't you talk about it?
I can talk about it, but she'll do a lot better job.
Excellent.
I brought 3 whole pages of things you can do to prepare. A couple of things to point out of that. This is really geared towards the business community. We've been working with the Main Street and the Chamber program on ways that they can prepare. That includes signage, communications, marketing materials, all of those things. We've sent over examples, so hopefully they can take advantage of those. We've also had some fun event ideas. The worst thing you can do is discourage people from coming downtown during construction. You want to keep people coming down, you want to keep them interested. Construction is interesting, especially to little kids, so the more you can engage them, the better, and to keep your events downtown. So that's what we've been working with on the organizational side. From the business perspective, a couple of things to note in here. Make sure you're taking photos of all of your merchandise, of your windows, of the inside and the exterior of your buildings. Because if something happens, if rocks are thrown at your window and suddenly they're scratched, you want to be able to prove to insurance that that happened as part of the project. And there's no question about it. So make sure you're taking pictures of that in your inventory in case, like you said, the basement floods and suddenly you lost inventory. So document those things. Build up your communication with your customers and make sure you are plugged in and engaged with the local organizations. Make sure you get to know the contractor team. The contractors too and the subs are going to be great customers of yours, especially if you're a lunch place. They have to eat too, and if you can offer specials to them and engage them in your community, the project is going to go smoother than you'd expect. So have fun with it too. Do some fun promotions. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Use this time to update your website, signage, if you need to do any construction. Now is a good time when customers might be slow or you might have to pivot how you reach your customers. It can be a great time to make some of those improvements.
Well, and you mentioned communication, business communication, communication to customers, but can you talk about kind of overall the communication strategy that you used in Marion and then that you guys used in Nevada? Talk about the communication strategy, both the business strategy as well as the kind of the organizational communication strategy. What worked best, and then kind of who managed the updates and how were they all shared?
Yeah, the most important thing should be at the front of this handout, but it's actually at the back, and that is called setting the tone. And that is a responsibility of everyone in this room, is to set the tone for this project. The reality is, if a customer comes downtown and you're complaining to them as a business owner about how bad it is, and they're complaining to you, that's going to be a bad experience, and that's not going to bring anyone coming back to downtown. So what I always preach to my businesses is to acknowledge it. You don't want to pretend it's not there. Acknowledge it. Yeah, it was probably difficult to come down here, but I'm so appreciative that you came down and you supported my business today. And do anything you can to thank them, to publicly thank them, because those are the customers that are willing to come down here during construction that are gonna get everyone through this, and you want them to have a great experience. So, that is the biggest message. I would say also to stay plugged into everything as much as you can. Those email updates to, the meetings that are held, make sure that you're attending those and your, staff also is well educated. Because even though you might be able to set the tone, sometimes your staff might not be following the same suit. So make sure your staff is trained too, to spread that message and to talk about the project in a positive light. One thing we always said was, yeah, it's rough, but isn't it gonna be great? And I would make my businesses recite this during our meetings, but isn't it going to be great?
Yeah.
And we actually were searching for a new city manager at the time. And I did not know this, but he's secret shop our district. And he was, talking to a business owner and said, isn't this awful? And she just hate this construction. They're like, yeah, but look at how cool this is gonna be. And they had the documents to show them the great renderings, that they were given. And they were able to be promoters of the project. And our city manager thought, wow, a community that's not complaining about construction, that's forward thinking, that's looking at the future of their downtown and is excited about it. That's a community that I want to be a part of.
Same questions to you guys.
Communication.
Communications.
So like I mentioned, we kind of right out of the gate, we started, working the streets, talking to all the building and business owners. One thing we did was make sure we had updated, contact info to, the city and to the Main Street or downtown organization so that, you can make sure everybody is getting the info. Nobody can come back later and say, I didn't know any of that. With the assistance of Main Street, Iowa, we prepared some documents. This is called Preparing for Construction, Info, Hints, and Tips for Businesses and Property Owners. Right on it on the front, it has the city phone number. Here's where you can call if you have any questions. Ideas for, like Brooke mentioned, several ideas she had were part of this as well. There's something else, but it's escaping.
All good. Well, and Abby, not only kind of the communications piece, but also thinking about how did you, what work did you do? What worked effectively to kind of maintain foot traffic, which I understand during COVID maybe pivoted to socially distanced foot traffic or drive up traffic. What helped the most with kind of maintaining that foot traffic?
So we actually expanded our offerings and we decided if we got them to come in for a cup of coffee in the morning, man, wouldn't it be awesome if they took supper home or they grabbed their lunch? And so that was when we kind of kicked off an extra amount of offerings in our coffee shop so that we could close earlier. You know, we're in the middle of the pandemic as well, but also we could close earlier. And our ticket per person went way up because now they weren't just buying a $6 cup of coffee, they were buying a box lunch for $7, and then they were grabbing a take and make dinner for their family. And since I was in the food business already, and we had a lot of other things at that point that were not happening, we just said, we'll just up our offerings. That we put all our eggs in that one basket, even though we had the Streetscape going on. So I think really diversifying and taking that opportunity to increase that, just that price per person, you know, increase that ticket price when they come in, adding those little teeny things that make them so they don't have to take another trip uptown that day or, you know, park way around the block and get to your place. Yeah, if there's something else that you notice, people are looking for, offer it, you know, that's kind of like, yeah.
Well, and Brooke, we were just talking about that earlier today. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that strategy looks like and means? And then also if you'd share kind of how in Marion you kind of kept the foot traffic coming down.
Yeah, we have a lot of events, and a lot of different partnerships that we did. We did a story walk with the library along the fencing, and would push different promotions from the businesses, for foot traffic. I would say though, and congratulations, that is an awesome business story to share, because construction really puts businesses into two categories. This is either going to be really, really tough for an already struggling business, or it's gonna push businesses to think in a different way about how do I reach my customers? How can I make my business better? And it can be successful. We had businesses in Marion that did better during construction than they did in a regular year. And that's because they pushed themselves, they pushed their business model, they changed, they were flexible, they met their customers where they were at. And they also were really good at communicating with their customers. They played the card of, we need your business now to get through this, but they did that in a positive way. And their customers showed up for it, and it kind of created a sense of unity within the community. That's kind of that silver lining to the construction project.
Awesome. Thinking kind of back to the initial renderings and as the projects get ready to start, how did the public initially respond? And then how did that shift over time, and how did you navigate those changes over time? Anybody can start.
Well, I know there wasn't enough parking for Karen.
Is there ever enough parking? You know, the planning, it all seemed like it unfolded pretty quick, you know, we basically got some giant maps, which we posted on the wall, and then invited everybody to come see during a session, you know, much like this. Here's what it's gonna look like. So it is definitely a process, and you're going to hit points of frustration when you're like, what in the world is the city trying to do to me? The city wants you to succeed as much as it wants the project to succeed. And I think more than anything, communicating each step of the process was the critical piece that helped it go smoother. And that's basically a weekly update of, all right, this is what the guy with the giant digger is doing with the giant hole in the street right now. This is what he's putting in. This is how long it's gonna take, and we'll come back and give you an update next week. We found as long as we did that, most people were okay and you know, happy with the way things were going. So that was probably the biggest piece of it from our end. It's just, and the plan did change, you know, there were changes as we went down the street. Okay, well, you know, we expected this to be here, but it's not here, it's 6 feet over there. So now we've got to kind of regroup and figure out what's gonna go on. It's gonna add another week to the process, but you know, it happens.
We had some great renderings. We were able to give those to the businesses so that they can show their customers what they were gonna look like and inspire everyone else to get excited about the project. We had some great signage that we put on the back, on the inside of bathroom stalls, because what else are you gonna read when you're in there? And those were pretty successful. They also had not only the renderings, but they had QR codes to up-to-date information. So it had the general project information, and then anything that was recent was in a QR code, so that we could keep everyone updated without changing out signage constantly.
Sorry, taking notes, which is what this is really all about. So looking back, what's one thing you wish you had done differently before and or during construction, kind of having that retrospective?
I wish we had explained to everybody what a bump out is.
Would you want to explain to everybody what a bump out is, Steve?
Why, yes, yeah, thank you, John. The bump out is the part of the curve that sticks out on the corner and makes some people nervous that they won't be able to drive around it. I assure you can drive around it. It makes it so your downtown feels more welcoming to pedestrians. I think it also maybe slows down traffic a little bit so that it's more welcoming to people that are walking around. And yes, semi trucks, if they are on your street, they can still make the turn. It's that was probably the most controversial thing I can think of about it, was the bump outs, which I think are very nice today. And we're now today it's all done. We've got some nice planters. We've got tables that sit on the corner. People can gather there. So I think it's been a great asset.
I think I probably would have, trained my staff a little bit better in their knowledge of what was going on. I had some young kids working for me. And I wasn't always there. I was entrenched in what was going on. I knew what was going on most of the time, but they really didn't. And so just their lack of understanding and appreciation for it, probably is what I would have done differently, just, made sure that I conveyed my appreciation for the project and my heart for the project. And as much as you said, this is great, this is great. We're supposed to, yes, it's a pain, but it's gonna be amazing and it's a gift, and treating it like it's a gift and not just a punishment. So, yeah, I would say probably just communicate with my own personal staff better.
I think mine would be the same, you just can't communicate enough, with everyone, both organization and on the business side. It helps so much to resolve conflicts and just to create the expectation with your customers that they know what to expect. Making sure that your websites are updated or that you're calling appointments and telling them, hey, you're gonna run into this, but this is the secret route. This is the secret parking spot that you can park in during construction. Communicating all of that more and more.
So, both of you guys have talked about, getting businesses bought in on it, talking positively about it. What are the most successful tactics that you saw for getting businesses more and more bought into it? And, how did you overcome some of those businesses that, no matter how many conversations took place or how it was characterized, still continued to have frustrations with the overall scope of the project and elements within it that ultimately probably dragged everybody down a little bit?
My office was the venting zone. So when businesses had just about had it, they would come into my office and vent to me about it, and I was happy to hear it. But the reality is those businesses that are talking negatively about the project and are spreading that around, they're just hurting their own business. That's money that they're losing out their cash register. And so we actually had some businesses that would hold each other accountable. If they hear that another business was talking bad about the project, they would go talk to them because they knew how important that was. Downtowns are reliant on each other's business. If they go to lunch, that means they might be going to retail. And if you can work together to get that same message out, that people keep coming and maybe they have a couple of different businesses, everyone's gonna be better off for them.
Yeah, I'd second that, just supporting each other as businesses. I think we really were able to collaborate on some things at that time, and help each other out with different things, with communication, pushing people to each other and making sure, hey, could you tell people when they're in there to come around the door, to get to my place, and just communicating with each other and not being an island, but being a community together. I don't know.
Just real quick, like Brooke and Eddie said, just look out for each other. We had a restaurant that was just really having a bad time and they were really speaking negatively. And I think we kind of banded together and did a sort of a off-the-cuff promo for them and said, hey, everybody go in and get a margarita and a thing of nachos and make them have a good day. And, just little things like that help out.
We had a couple of, and I always forget about this, we had a couple of banks that ran promotions for their customers on Main Street. So the banks would sponsor a breakfast tab, and anyone that came in could have a coffee on the bank, because they knew that their success for that business loan was tied to their success. And so reach out to your bank or your suppliers or anyone who their success is determined by your success, might be able to help you with maybe its costs or different promotions.
See, Tom is now quietly avoiding people's gaze back there. So thinking about, kind of the fatigue that can come with this entire process, how did you celebrate those milestones? How did you keep that momentum going in your guys' communities?
We did a lot of posting, I know, and took a lot of pictures of excitement when we got new sidewalks and how wide they were, how we could fit so many tables on them, and just, I mean, I think just in every good thing, just being excited about it. Even when the cement trucks were out front and you saw, oh gosh, we're not gonna have to look at dirt, like promoting that. And within our windows and saying, look what's happening, this is exciting. Yeah, we had kids out front of our building as well. We would like set our tables out there and little kids would come and watch the diggers and we would play on that, you know, look who's having coffee out in front, watching the diggers. Like, and so, I think just being involved in it, not ignoring that it's not going on, you know, make it a part of your day and talk about it and be positive about it online.
Year two did get a little bit tough to keep the tone, positive. Ours moved further down, so, it was those businesses that we had been impacted, severely in year one, but now we're, experiencing for year two. We did, care packages for our businesses. They had stress balls in them and, just different resources. Messages of positivity, signage, that sort of thing, snacks, because they're just hangry, I don't know. But we did care packages and, year two, we ramped up some of our promotions. We did, we found stuff within the underground, so it was kind of archaeology. And we posted about it and that got a lot of attention for our downtown because people thought those things are cool. We were able to pull up the historic photos to show where that signage was and what that business was that we found. So, we really ramped up our social media promotions on year two and engaged people in the process. Like you said, if we were doing a promotion, we'd say meet me by the dirt pile and people knew where that was. So just have fun with it.
So, we do have time for if anybody has any questions. I've got a handful of additional questions, but I do want to make sure that I kick it over to anybody. For that, I do know, and I've got some fun questions too, but craziest costume that you guys adorned during it. Evie, I don't think you did, but I know the two of you have adorned crazy costumes through your streetscape.
I don't know that I did it for Streetscape. I think I was Elvis for one of the theater projects.
You may have just been Elvis every
I think I may
day,
have been
just
Elvis for
fun.
Streetscape too, yeah. Yeah, I have a really cheap tacky Elvis suit that I break out once in a while. I do not dance like Elvis, so I'm sorry. You know, joke about that, and we were constantly trying to think of funny little things we can do, you know, when you go out and make the rounds talking to people, you know, wear a funny hat or Hawaiian shirt or whatever. We never, you know, it's recommended that we come up with a mascot, you know, a walking traffic cone or, you know, something silly. Somebody had a bear, I think, somewhere. We weren't able to make that stick. We couldn't figure out what that was, but that's another idea that you could do. But, you know, it's tough. It's your livelihood, it's your life, it's stressful, but you know, everything is better if you can keep it a little lighter and just have a tiny bit of fun with it. So try.
I was the construction cone.
You were the cone.
I had a cone costume. Actually, I'm speaking in Philadelphia on the next week, and I'm wearing the cone costume, for the second year in a row. So it does get kind of hot when you're presenting in it. We had two cone costumes and we sent volunteers running around town at every event, to just play into it. I am also the Grinch and which is a funny twist on it when it comes to holiday season, because we tell everyone to stay positive, and then I admit I can be the Grinch, so it works. Other duties as a sign,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yep. Danielle, you're hearing that, right? Yeah.
Sorry.
Getting back to, some more seriousness on the topics, can you talk about, how you all measured success during it? When we think about this as a community, there's a lot of different ways to look at success. What are some of those measurements that you all looked for, whether that be, economically, socially, aesthetically, kind of talk about what success looked like?
Well, we did have social distancing and all those things during ours. So like it might have been different if we didn't have all that. At that point, we were in survival. If I could pay my bills and everybody didn't have to lay anybody off, anybody besides COVID related layoffs, I felt like I was a success if we were gonna survive it. And I definitely did not anticipate getting rich. I did not anticipate, having the best financial year of my life. But it was, I probably expected the worst, and it surprised me, really, it did. And so, yeah, it did, it surprised me a lot.
Not cutting you off.
No, you're good.
I just gotta say this before I forget.
Yeah.
We, at the end of it, we did not lose any businesses.
Yeah.
We had a business move out, but it was not construction related. It was entirely something else. So that was kind of our first success, was that everybody was able to make it through and hang on. Now, being on the other side of it, 5 years later now, since it started basically last month, we have seen a renaissance in downtown Nevada, and the streetscape is a big part of it. People want to hang out in a place that's nice and looks pretty and makes them feel comfortable to walk around. So we're seeing a number of new businesses that started, almost immediately after the streetscape project was finished, and continues today. We've got new business moving in right now that the downtown continues to rejuvenate, and this was a big part of it. It was kind of the first big step.
So that is one of the questions I was going to ask in a little bit was, talking about that. But since you jumped into it, I don't think it's fair to just say you've got a number of new businesses. Name drop some businesses. What are the types of businesses that you've got coming into your downtown now as a direct result of the Streetscape project and the investment that the city made?
We've got some restaurants and.
How many restaurants?
Three new restaurants and a brewery, in the last, how many? 3 years?
The bakery, the popcorn
The
store.
bakery and the popcorn store, the bakery opened up right after the streetscape. And then the popcorn store, so I mean, a half dozen food establishments in that area. Cubby's on Main was rejuvenated. What it really did is it kind of spurred people on to redo their buildings or to sell them or to, to move, to get things moving. It spurred me on to apply for a grant and redo the upstairs of my downtown building, which in turn, people are remodeling their apartments on their second story. It just really kind of was a catalyst for just rejuvenation on the side, on the storefronts. So,
Your upper story.
Upper story.
Which is
Copper Spaces.
Which is
a co-working and flex space.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. And
It is.
it's just been a great asset to our town.
And then, do you want to talk about the theater?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm picking on you guys.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You bet.
We've done a lot.
Yeah, and Evie's modest. She does have a beautiful business there. We actually applied for that challenge grant right in the middle of the streetscape project to kick that off. So An interesting thing is a number of businesses took the opportunity while maybe things were a little slower, and as long as they, they had the capital they could put into it, they did make improvements to their buildings, their facades, and their interiors of their businesses. So it was an opportunity for some that is now paying off handsomely. With the improved appearance of the downtown district, it did spur a lot of extra investment. An example is our restaurant T.E. Alderman's, which was a 2-year plus historic tax credit, basically restoration of a beautiful original building, and it's now a restaurant in downtown Armada. So it just, like we said, it just kicked it all off. Kind of the flower is blooming now.
And Brooke, I don't know all the businesses in Marion, so you're gonna have to, the level of detail now that I'm looking for, like dive in, give, help give some inspiration for kind of that other side of this.
Yeah, I want to give huge credit to our businesses because, so 2020, we had COVID, and then we had derecho, which took out about 50% of our tree canopy, affected every building in town.
We're familiar.
Seven roofs within our district, so you guys know how that was. We damaged every single building, extensive damage, and then that spring that we had planned to do Streetscape, we looked at our businesses and said, "Can you take this?" And we didn't know what they'd say. We were all geared up. We had done 5 years of preparation for this, more if you count the alley project. And they said, yes, let's just do it. Let's get through this. We trust that you have a great team that's gonna support us through this. And we trust that it's gonna be worth it in the end. But we had businesses that opened during construction, which still blows my mind, that they trusted us and our community so much to invest at the worst possible moment. We had a coffee shop that opened up in the district. Our office moved we opened a storefront, in the district. But also we've seen just this amazing growth, and the businesses that were there before the growth now kind of had that advantage of getting established within the community. And rent rates have gone up. We've had a lot of different businesses move in. There's been millions of private dollars invested since the Streetscape came. So they always say, private investment follows public investment. You've seen that 10 times over with this project. New businesses, there's a candle shop, there's the bakery that moved in there. We have multiple businesses that have grown in scale and size and have needed to move into larger businesses, which is unheard of in retail right now. Couple of different restaurants. We've just seen incredible growth since then, and it's been exciting to see. And people just love the streetscape. People just love to hang out on the sidewalk, which never happened before.
True.
Evie, I want to ask you a specific question as a business owner down there. Can you talk about a specific thing, example that the city, the Main Street program, or the community did that was the most impactful to you? And it doesn't have to be just dollars and cents, but what were those really impactful things that that you felt as a small business owner during your Streetscape project?
Just their cheerleading. I mean, they just continue to push and send us business and use us and promote and just an overarching love. I mean, love of our business and it's all up to you. I mean, just not discouraging. Our Main Street could be a place of woe is me, and kind of the place where we would go and say, I am really discouraged. And I remember being very discouraged. Even I didn't want to apply for my grant, and I said, screw this, I'm just shutting the whole thing down. I was just done. Between the Streetscape and COVID, I was done, and our board said, and we're gonna do this. we're gonna do this with you, and I think you were part of that too, but like, they just came along and said, we're gonna get this done, and we're gonna do it whether we want to or not, you know, and they just held us up and just, I mean, it's discouraging to be a business owner in a time of change, so,
John.
yeah.
So did you guys get together? Did you have like small group meetings amongst the businesses on a regular basis? Because I think about the fatigue that our community has had between the tornado and then COVID and then derecho and then now this. And it's like rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Yes.
Like, I just think, that's my question. Did you get together on a regular basis?
Not really on a regular basis, but we were really good about, just individual relationships.
One-on-one.
One-on-ones.
Yep.
Partnering with each other, supporting each other as business owners. And I especially, just business is good for business and spreading just that overall attitude within our businesses. Like, we're not in competition with each other. We are each other. We can't live without each other, you know. I need you, you need me. So really, but we never had that meeting, you know, that place where, it was just an overarching, just, I don't know, do we all meet in the coffee shop? No, but we were part of each other's lives. We're a small community though, too, so.
Well, and speaking from somebody who was there and part of the organizational structure during
Yes.
that time, I don't think the business community was looking for a top-down solution on this. We knew that Evie was the one who had all the information because everybody was gonna talk to Evie because she was in the thick of it as well. And so it was a little bit of self-led from the business community and that connection and collaboration, but ensuring that we had connections into that business community to make sure that feedback ultimately got to the ears that it needed to. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll interject there because Abby, I think you're a little too humble sometimes.
We had, every meetings with the contractors and, we saved some time at the end, for the businesses to get to know each other and meet each other, to be able to develop those relationships. What you don't want is it to turn into, complaining fest
Just say it.
session. I try not to.
Abby, you can say it.
And also, if you have specific questions about the project, we try to keep those separate as separate conversations so that we're not all talking about individual issues. But, we also use that opportunity to share, some new promotions that we were rolling out so that everyone knew the events and all the things that we were doing to support them. But really, that peer-to-peer thing happened organically, and our businesses, frankly, the ones that didn't do well. You know, you really have to rely on each other. And one of our businesses that wasn't doing well, I was in there and I asked him, I said, name one other business owner on this main street. Couldn't even name a business. So if you have local owners, if you are engaging with your other businesses, if you are doing cross promotions, that is gonna really help you in your business and your community.
Yeah, the lone wolf won't survive in a streetscape for very long, so.
I like the point that Brooke brought up about the meeting with contractors. They were very supportive of the businesses, and we found that if we communicated back to them, the requirements of the businesses, hey, can you keep my sidewalk open? Or, hey, can you build a bridge over the giant trench in front of my front door so that people can get in? They were willing to do it, and they put some effort into that. And that was really helpful, and it built some trust between the contractors and the business owners as well.
So it's a great thing to note. So now that you all are on the other side of it, and I think I generally have an idea, but how do people feel about the streetscape? I mean, do they feel that the investment was worth it? Do you feel like you went far enough? Do you feel like you went too far? You know, what's the general overall feeling on your streetscape project?
Generally, our streetscape, very successful. Like we talked about, it's attracted new businesses, the current businesses that are doing well. And the citizens have really embraced the downtown district in a way that they didn't before. And just having it be a nice place that looks nice, the curbs aren't broken. It really makes a big difference. I think the thing we didn't anticipate maybe enough was how quickly people would embrace it and how quickly they wanted other amenities to go. They want seating on the sidewalk. We want beautiful flowers. We want a speaker system to play music during events. And we are still kind of scrambling to get those other amenities in place and funded. But once you get it rolling, it's going.
Desire for more.
Desire for more.
Trees. We want
Trees.
Did you guys not do trees?
No,
Trees.
no trees. And the bump outs have not been the catastrophe that Karen thought they would be. So she's still.
I would say, what I didn't expect is how much community pride came from it. And just walking down the street every single day after the project, I would see families showing other people it and bringing them down and saying, look at how cool this is. This is my community. This is where I go to hang out. These are my stores. Just that sense of pride in your downtown was uplifted, and that we didn't see hardly at all before the project. I would also say our project was really successful. We won a bunch of awards, and that just helped increase that community pride and that promotion that more people should come down and see this and see how beautiful it is. They also wanted more, so we moved on to phase 3. What was cool though too was we planted a bunch of perennials, and they were bright purple flowers, and you didn't see those until early summer the next year. And people were blown away by the flowers. And I had so many people calling my office asking what type of flowers they were, because they wanted to plant them in their own garden. And then people would come down and look at the flowers, and people would take their senior photos. And it's just this catalytic thing that happens in your downtown when people see this beautiful place and have pride in it.
So, anybody have any questions? All right, I've got one more and then, oh, yep,
Actually, two questions.
yeah,
So after the project was completed and, the streetscape looks beautiful and, as everything is as you imagine. Did you feel like the businesses that had maybe less than desirable looking facades, do you feel, as an owner of a business with a very ugly facade, do you feel like it made them stick out worse? Or do you feel like maybe it just, like you look at those buildings and you're like, oh my gosh, please fix them.
Well, I think that was part of, yes, I'm sorry. But that's what's gonna happen.
From like the 10-year.
Like, she can help you get a grant for that.
Danielle, raise your hand, talk to Danielle over here, she will get you in touch with me. There are grant programs for that. We have design services within our office, so if you're not sure what you want to do to your building, we can have a design consultant come and talk to you about that, especially if it's a historic building. They are well versed in historic preservation, but again, our office, we are focused on historic preservation, but within the context, it's a context of economic development. So we want successful businesses to be in these buildings, and that's what it's about. It's not necessarily about how beautiful your facade is, even though there will be pressure to probably fix up your facade or your signage or your awning. Yes, and all those things. But now is a good time too to start thinking about that.
yeah, did you have a second one?
So what did you anticipate being the biggest issue versus what actually was like the biggest challenge that you faced, or the biggest complaint from the community versus what actually was the biggest complaint you had about that? Or difficulty you had to overcome? Because right now I feel like the consensus for us all seems to be like parking? How are people going to get here, be here, and easily access our businesses?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest fear for our businesses was that you couldn't get in your front door for 3 months, and that's not a reality at all. They're gonna work as hard as they can to limit that, as much as they can, and to let you know when those times are gonna happen, potentially even, schedule those on the day when you're closed. And so that was the biggest fear that I think wasn't realized, and people figure it out, maybe they have to come in this way one week and another way another week, but as long as you communicate with them, it's gonna work out. And also, you guys are retaining a lot of parking during this project too, correct? You can come in on the sides,
Yeah, I mean, we'll have, not only throughout construction, a number of parking availability, but also post-construction, I think we grow in spaces.
Yes, on Main Street we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, what I found most surprising is how little people read signs. And, how blind people are to them. So, the bigger, the better, the more, the better.
gonna say, don't bother.
Don't bother.
in Nevada, you guys put yours right in the middle of the road.
Yeah,
right? Like,
literally.
Yeah, yeah, Kristen.
Businesses that didn't rely on as much foot traffic to partner with those that do rely on foot traffic, like as an encourager or as ways to utilize their social platforms to get people into the businesses that really need foot traffic.
We had a great example in our town come out of that was, one of our realtors at that time. Is that you? So Remax, no, that would be fun. Decided to feature these foot traffic, just other businesses that surrounded them. They were on the internet. Nobody was coming to find them. They were meeting people at houses. They didn't really rely on foot traffic, but they really, they would do promotions at our different towns. And that turned out to be, they ended up doing a lot of promoting just within our business and creating a whole network for, and just a resource for our community.
Still continues.
That still continues today and is relied on and heavily followed, and it's been a great asset, so. And I think it's encouraged other, like insurance companies and some of the other, businesses to partner, so.
And that was Remax, is that what you said?
Yeah, sorry.
How did the businesses work together to try, did the businesses work together to try to set cohesive hours so that when we get people to downtown, they're all open to the same amount of time frame versus stores all closing at different times so that the public is maybe confused on when is the best time to come and shop downtown? And I also live downtown, full disclosure, so I oversee all of these.
Yeah, you are the boss.
No.
I think that is hard under any circumstances, it feels like. I don't know, Brooke, you have some ideas on that? Yeah, that's right. Any group, it's difficult to coordinate that and get the hours set, but, you do as much as you can. Again, that face-to-face daily communication, you just keep driving some of those things home and eventually you get most people on board with that. Something else I was gonna say from your previous question, how do you get businesses to help the other businesses? Something we did was went out to local industry, we went out to the other employers, the banks. We said, hey, why don't you guys pick a day and buy lunch for your staff from one of the downtown restaurants? And they would do that, and then that would help, drive some business for that day for those. So that was successful as well.
Our businesses learned a lot during COVID, and so they implemented a lot of those things into how they're reaching their customers. We had some businesses that would do receipt referrals, so at the bottom of your receipt from lunch is a 5% off at this retailer. So a couple of them paired up to do that. We also, just word of mouth is helpful. And there was one more. Oh, we had some local celebrities during COVID that came out and would just promote different businesses. And so in addition to the banks, we had some of those local influencers that would promote specific businesses. We do a batch at a time. So these businesses need your help over these next few weeks. And then the next week, we promoted a couple of different businesses
During Streetscape, right?
during Streetscape.
You're saying COVID a couple times, but
Well, they learned the lessons from
Okay,
COVID,
I
and
see.
then we implemented those same things during the Streetscape. Yep.
and so I do want to I know getting consistent business hours is something that every main street tries to get done. No main street gets it done, but thinking about some of the events and activities that you did throughout your day, were there any that you found that were highly successful at starting to alter hours to match with some of those events?
No.
Okay,
We had some businesses that altered hours, not significantly. That's a really tough thing to do. You can do, like, it's all about training your customers too. That's the hardest part, is to train your customers. And you really have to stay consistent for a really long time. So we weren't gonna change that with the Streetscape project. What we did find though is that, when you take out the streetlights, it's really dark. And so, we encouraged all of our shoppers to keep their window lights on at night. And that kept people, they were like, oh, something's going on downtown. No, the lights are just on. So you could see where you're walking, you can window shop even after hours. I've even seen people put a sign in the window that people can read at night that says, this shop is open 24 hours online. Come to our website with the QR code. So there's some different ways you can get around that hours.
very good. So we are at and actually over time, but I do want to ask kind of one final question, and then I've got some closing remarks, and then we'll be around for a little bit longer. But what would you say to a community like ours that's about to dive into this next Monday? What's your one piece of advice?
It's gonna be great.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, keep that positive perspective even on the tough days, and keep doing everything you can to keep customers coming through them.
I'd say the same thing. It's gonna be awesome, and just keep that attitude. It really, you guys have the power to create the environment of how people react and respond, and as business owners and downtown people, it's really, you're setting the tone, and keep it positive.
Love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
Stick together, help each other out. If you're not getting the answers you want, talk to people. Don't be afraid to bring up concerns. Talk it out, get some level of comfort with it, and stick together. It's gonna be awesome when it's done.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. Thank you guys for being here and sharing some wisdom with us. If you guys would help me thank them. And thank you to everybody who came tonight. Your interest and input are vital as we begin this transformative process. Our downtown is the heart of Marshalltown, and this project is about more than infrastructure. It's about revitalization, pride, and long-term prosperity. We will continue to be communicating regularly, and I encourage you all to follow our updates, especially through the main event campaign on social media. If you're not signed up for our email database, please see Brittany or scan the code on the flyer to get signed up. Brittany has disappeared, but I was going to thank her. So team members remember that I thanked her for all of her work. She is going to be one of the main points of contact during this whole work, connecting with all of our businesses very, very consistently, and also leading a lot of fun and different social media efforts on behalf of the main event. And then now that we have officially concluded kind of the panel portion, We are gonna have Greg from Bolton and Mink and Heather, the city engineer, around to answer questions. A lot of the ideas and things that the panelists brought up are things that we are actively working on or have in place. And so if you've got questions about those, questions about specifics, we're gonna have experts here to be able to handle that for about the next 30 minutes. And Brittany is back. Brittany, can you wave your hand? And a big thank you to Brittany for helping coordinate and lead a lot of these efforts. All right, thank you all.